Warning. The following contains bright, flashing lights and /or imagery that may cause discomfort and /or seizures for those with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Episode number 3 of this weird ass experience called the Manifesto podcast. We have a history, a short one, but we were talking about before we started recording how we are usually just passing by each other as you go up on stage to present something, or in a class where you're about to present, and then I have to present myself. So we basically just kind of like been talking to each other through those small moments that we share before we go on stage, or through just witnessing each other's work, right? And like talking online. So for people that might not know a lot about you, Yousef, can you kind of do a little small intro about yourself?
Yes, like many men, I was born. And yes, we do have a short history, but it's a short and explosive history. I remember meeting you at that Marriott. We got together to do the class, and you got up there to do your bit, and I'd never met you before. I didn't know what you were talking about. And I got up there to do my bit, and both of us were having the same kind of thoughts, like, I can't believe I'm sitting in this room getting this gold knowledge, and it was like 10 or 15 civilians. Yeah. And we kept grabbing them. It's like, you have no idea the amount of good information you're getting. That was kind of where we met, but my story started a little bit before that in the United States Marine Corps. Before that, I was in Kuwait. I'm Kuwaiti myself. I was there for Desert Storm.
So you were born in Kuwait.
Yep, born in Kuwait.
That's an interesting. So that was you were born in Kuwait.
Born and lived
in Kuwait. Desert Storm happens. You come over.
Yep. So Desert Storm happened, and we were actually there during the occupation. You couldn't immediately leave. And then for that time, I was in first grade, 7, 8 years old. We went over to America, and I basically did first grade there while the 1990 war happened. Then America shows up, and then, you fast forward 15 years later, 9/11, and I'm going back to Iraq with the United States Marine Corps. So it's a weird angle, yeah.
So what was it like witnessing that the Gulf War through like TV? Like you were there, and now you're in the U.S.
I was actually kind of, sheltered from it because I was in the U.S. You didn't see it right in front of your face as much. You'd hear about it. And I think my mom, my family tried to protect us as much as we could because, it was a war. But while we were there, I remember being on my dad's shoulders, lifting me up over the shoulders and watching, T-72 tanks, roll on down the highway. And it's like, hey, that's where we're at right now, So by the time I got to the States, it was, into first grade, kind of out of my head at that point.
So you go from Kuwait to what part of the United States?
Michigan. And not Dearborn. Don't say it.
So you go from Kuwait to Michigan.
To the coldest ass place you could from the world's warmest spot to the coldest. Yeah.
What was that change like?
So I'd grown up going to the States because my mom is American and we have our American side of the family. So Michigan was nothing new to me. Winter was new because I'd always done summer times there. And I remember literally sitting at the bus stop in the morning going, I think I have frostbite on my toes. Like, I think I'm going to lose them, That was interesting. And also going from, this secular, Muslim country, no alcohol involved, to, Michigan public school system. It was interesting. Yeah, it was a trip.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. You grew up in Michigan. War is kind of behind you as far as your history, your family history, and just basically how you had to kind of like leave there and your family left there. And like 9/11. How old were you when 9/11 happened?
So fast forward to my sophomore year in high school. This is back in Michigan. So we skipped a couple parts too.
Sure.
So I went back for first grade, then the Gulf War was over, and we went immediately back for second grade, back to Kuwait. So I had my year kind of time out, went back there to a pretty devastated country. Saddam and the army had lit the fires, and they lit the oil fires, over 100 fires spewing oil and flames into the sky. So it built this ribbon to this day
Yeah.
To this day, a certain part of the year, this ribbon of black smoke shows up around Kuwait. To this day, 2022. But then it was a thick fog smoke, and it was so much so that it peeled the paint off your house. So Kuwaiti houses kept having to get repainted because of this oil layer on there. You were going back to, rubbling and a state.
Did your family attempt to kind of like figure out if they can rebuild there and stay?
So our home wasn't damaged. My dad had to stay. He was actually, kind of taken into custody by the Iraqis for a little bit, but he was a civilian by himself. So our home was good, but everything else had to be rebuilt. Luckily, the schools weren't too bad. We came back in there, but I remember vividly in second grade coming back to school in first period, and my teacher would be talking, "Hey, welcome to second grade. I'm Miss Ventura," I think her name was. Miss Ventura, if you're out there. And like you'd hear boom, boom, boom. And, as a vet, we all know those noises, but those are mines going off. So either someone's stepping on them or they're demining them, So that was a second grade memory for me. And not that I was freaked out. That was my normal.
That was your baseline.
That was my baseline. Oh, look at, better not step on those mines. We were getting all the classes like, hey, this is a ribbon mine. This is this type. Don't step on this one, So that was my normal. That was my second grade.
That's an interesting second grade. So when you come back from that?
So we do the second grade back in Kuwait. I grew up there, and I actually go back to Michigan for high school. So going into my freshman year of high school, gas was 98 cents. I remember that, driving by a gas station, seeing 98 cents in Michigan. And I spent my high school there, and from there I joined a military academy. They did their number on me and joined the Marine Corps from there. So I spent my 4 years there in high school, and I was there for 9/11, obviously.
So you were in service already when 9/11 happened?
No, before. Yeah. Okay. So 10th grade, first period CAD class, saw the planes live, go into it. I already thought I was gonna be in the military. Didn't really have a branch at that point. There was no war on.
Yeah.
But we all watched that happen, and then so all of a sudden,
What was it like seeing those planes? First off, hit the buildings. But then hearing the rhetoric around who was responsible, and some of the, I don't know, like coming from a Muslim country and being an American, Muslim, and now all of a sudden, you're it now, as far as the perception, some of the perception out there. Like how was that?
And you got to talk about, this is Michigan. This is Southwest Michigan. Everyone says, "Oh, you're Arab. You're from Dearborn." No, I'm not from Dearborn. Southwest Michigan, a lot of farm town. I think I was, one of the 4 brownest people there. But it was nothing. Nothing that stands out in my head about racism. One thing is, I don't really look Arab.
Okay.
I've been told that a lot. So
okay.
I don't know if I've had a blessed life. I've never had to. One, I think, you deal with, discrimination. One, it's how you carry it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I try to carry myself as one who's not going to be open to that. Like, there'll be consequences. So I think that's part of it. But also, I think, I can pass for everything else. But joining the Marine Corps out of that academy, out of that military academy, that was something else, because now the evasion was about to happen, or we were talking about it. I'm sitting in boot camp. I'm all 18, 19 years old. And this is before the Iraq invasion. And Kuwait has a little island on it called Philika Island. And people use it for maneuvers or whatever. But, 2 people got up on that island and killed, I want to say, 3 Marines. This incident actually was the whole reason where, you ever heard about Marines being unloaded or not having security rounds?
Yeah.
Well, the whole reason we have security rounds in Guardian Angel kind of stemmed from this one incident, because the Marines were training on the island and no one had any ammunition, because they figure, hey, we're on an island.
Yeah.
But 2 people infiltrated and they ended up killing 3 Marines. I'm watching that happen in boot camp. So I'm like, man, maybe some mistakes were made. I don't know yet.
Yeah. So you were there for part of the invasion, basically.
Yeah.
What was your role in that part of the war?
As boot camp progressed, shit started getting real, because the drill instructors are trying to fill your head full of this, that, and the other thing, but they were having like heart to hearts, man. One was an infantry, and they were coming in like, yo, this ain't no joke. Like, you guys are going. Like, you guys will probably be over there before we are. They were all chomping a bit, wanting to go. So things started to get real, get through boot camp. I go through the School of Infantry. It was, 12 weeks. The invasion was basically kicking off at this point. I don't even go to my unit. Usually you get released from School of Infantry, you go to your unit, and they beat you up and haze you, whatever, and then you deploy together. They're like, nah, man, you're going to a truck, and you're going to go sit in this warehouse till we fly you to Kuwait. And they fly us to Kuwait, no ship or anything, and we land there, and that's basically when the war kicks off. Me and another private, we were like thumbing rides through Iraq to try to catch my unit because they'd already gone forward,
Awesome.
So that was the intro into the Marine Corps.
That was your intro, basically. Yeah. Getting tossed into the water.
Yeah, literally. I mean, and it doesn't work like that. You're moving forward with units, and there was like a guy who had been wounded. He was coming back to the unit. He was like a corporal. And he's like, oh, you guys really are? You're coming with me. And we were like, when I say literally, we're walking up to trucks and going, hey, you going to Tikrit? No, but that helo is. We run over the helo. You going to Tikrit? Yeah, get in. And it's, me and two other privates sitting on a pack. It's interesting.
So what happens when you finally make it to where you needed to be?
I get there, and full blown war is kicking off. It's already happening, and I speak Arabic. So I finally catch up to my unit. They're in Tikrit. And they've pretty much mobbed up. This is Saddam's hometown, and we've taken over a palace. It was kind of wild because I remember my battalion commander, first battalion commander I ever had in the fleet. His name was Duffy White. They're like, hey, you got to go talk to the colonel, before you go to your unit. And my private ass walks over there. He's standing tall on the steps of like Saddam's palace, and he's like John Wayne pose, and he's like, oh, the new guys, and he gives this like motto speech from Saddam's palace. Like looking back, I'm like, that was wild. I'm private. I'm a kid. They put me with a platoon. They're like, oh, there was an Arabic speaker. They'd heard about me somehow. And they're like, we need you with Praetorian platoon down on the bridge. And I got down there, and immediately they're like, well, start doing your thing. And there was probably 800 people on this bridge that a Hellfire had blown in half, but they didn't blow it all the way down. So what do the Iraqis? They're like, it's only 50% blown up.
It's fine.
They're driving cars over it. I'm like, you're probably gonna die, but open up your trunk. So within 30 minutes of me being there, I was out rocking and rolling with them.
You were basically in a combat zone talking to people,
we were doing some wild stuff in the beginning of the war too, man. Like the wartime, it kind of ended fairly quick. It was barely 3 weeks of war, and then like mission accomplished came out. Hey, we did it. Little did we know. But they move us back to a place called Diwania because we're going to rotate back home. We're done, basically. We're rotating back home, and we're in Diwania, and we're going out in town. There was no infrastructure. There was no bases. It was like, hey, we're just going to be in that building. And I remember me and my CO grabbing me for a shard, and they're like, oh, hey, come here. You're the Arabic speaker. And we walk up to this lone, 19-year-old gate guard, and we're like, hey, we're going to go into the city. And this kid's like, huh? What? And he's like, yeah, we're just going to go into the city, so you're good, right? And he's like, okay. And we were wandering around shopping in, Diwania, buying stuff, no problem. Went to a leather worker, and, fast forward 6 months later, 3 months later, and it's a bloody awful war zone.
Yeah. But who was involved in the fighting back in that specific area? So basically a lot of the people that...
It was a mix, man. It was weird. So OF1, it was like jubilation. We toppled Saddam. The Iraqis really were, going out and beating you and whatnot. That did not last long. So you had, obviously, the mistakes that we made, a lot of them, like disbanding the entire Iraqi army. Oh, never saw that one coming. So now you had people who had no jobs, who were trained in ARBs that needed a job. The economy took a tank. So electricians all of a sudden are making, IEDs. So you have those, terroristic factions, I'll call them. But another weird thing that was happening in the South and in the West too was these criminal organizations would just slap on like Ansar al-Unsa, like Iraqi, whatever, terrorist, a one-stop depot. And they're like, yeah, we're terrorists, But all they were doing was robbing convoys and robbing people. They were criminal syndicates, And there were some other weird things that we did in response to that. But it was very factional. It really mattered where you were. Yeah. If you were in the South, it was a different thing as opposed to being in the West, where it was, a different thing.
Yeah, that whole mission accomplished, jet landing, all that stuff.
It sure looked good. I mean, it looked good.
I was witnessing it as a complete outsider from afar, looking at that conflict, like, wow. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Didn't mean shit, but I remember we got put in that movement company, and like my name was Badou, so B-A. I was the first one to leave. We were leaving in like a couple days, and I got bumped. And they're like, hey, there's not enough room on the plane. You're going to next week's flight. and we thought the war was going to be over. Like, I remember a group of us, like, all, crying in our Wheaties because we were like, oh man, we're Marines and we're going to win us the war. And not even close, I know those dudes, one of them has 7 deployments.
Yeah.
7 deployments, I did 3 myself. That's like, okay, cool story, bro.
How far back this is? Almost 20 years ago.
Almost. Jesus, thanks, Ed. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's 2003.
Specifically thinking about that because
19 years.
I just met some. I trained some members of the military that they're about to go somewhere.
Yeah,
and one of them said that he was born after 9/11.
Oh.
Which made me think about the fact that the U.S. has been in war for so long.
Yep.
And some of these kids are about to, I think he was going to Africa, somewhere in Africa. And
you can Google it, the stories. I don't know how many I've seen. There's always once in a while, I've seen a daughter and a mom, a son and a dad, usually it's son and a dad, where they're in the war zone together. And the Stars and Stripes will do a thing, and they're like, son and dad. And you're looking at it going, Jesus, that's a long war. I mean, I think the history of the United States, we've been alive 200 some odd years, 10 of those years have been non-war, 20 years, something like that.
Were you ever deployed in Afghanistan?
No, not Afghanistan.
Not Afghanistan.
That was very quiet I did OF 1, 2, and 3, basically, back to back to back. That was when the insurgency kicked off. That was when the IEDs kicked off. That was just rocking. Afghanistan was a forgotten nothing.
Yeah.
No one was even deploying there.
Yeah.
And then after I came away from the fleet, stopped doing my deployments, started training, that's when Iraq quieted down after the surge, 2009, 2010, and then Afghanistan just kicked off. And then from there, you added in ISIS, and then, but at the time it was all Iraq.
Seeing the withdrawal from Afghanistan recently, how does that feel?
That's painful. That's painful as a vet who is patriotic, who joined in a time of need. We saw 9/11. We all did. I'm one story in a million. So we saw people got hurt. They attacked our country. They attacked loved ones, and so we wanted to go defend against that. And then you put us in this 20-year quagmire. And I know we were talking offline about my friend, and we'll talk about him later. And he went over there and died. And for all the heroics and awesome, they died with their boots on. He died doing what he loved. Yeah, you know what? I'd rather just have that person back.
Yeah.
So 20 years of loss and blood, and just to walk away.
When you see the withdrawal and you say pain, is the pain related to the futility of it?
It's related to the pain. 20 years, obviously I'm focused on our side and my guys and my friends. That's all that pain there. But what about the Afghanis? War, 95% of the people are stuck in the middle. It's the 5% of factions that are there, and everybody else is kind of stuck in the meat grinder in the middle. And we were there for a long time. We caused a lot of pain. They caused a lot of pain. And for what? Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Marine Corps, Delta Force, SEAL Team 6. We're out there canoeing everyone's head, and they're canoeing us. 20 years of that shit. And now what?
Yeah.
And then we end it with blowing up 13 Marines. That incident actually really heated me up, because if I didn't start the business, if I didn't do what I did now, where I'd be? I'd be in the Marine Corps training. Those guys were from Pendleton. They were from Horno. And the odds are, I'm not saying it's 100%, but odds are I would have trained somebody in that group.
Yeah.
And that gets to sit with me. I get to carry that around with me, another rat in my head, like shoulda, coulda, woulda, had they spotted that suicide bomber in the incident. So, and the fucked part about it was too, what the Marines were doing at the time when the bomb went off? So a suicide bomber had made his way into the crowd. There was a canal next to the base or whatever, and it was full of piss and shit, a sewer thing. And people were freaking out trying to get over the gate and the fence so much that they were falling into this shit sewer, okay? So what did the lieutenant out there do? He said, hey, Marines, start helping them out. And so those Marines, male and female, started climbing in the shit water, and there's even, I think, pictures of them pulling people out. That's when the asshole decided to detonate, When those Marines were sitting there wearing all that gear in this foreign country trying to help somebody else out, that's the exclamation point. So,
I think that there's a picture of that like a C-130 flying out, the one that had the people hanging from it. The numbering on that plane was 0911, I think. or something
Really?
like that. Yeah, which was pretty interesting. One of the final planes that made it out.
Well, funny how life works sometimes.
Yeah, time is a flat circle, is what some people say.
Mm.
I remember one of the quotes that I heard when that was happening, the withdrawal, that the Afghanis told the Americans that they might have the watches, but they have the time.
Yep.
You know, that was an interesting aspect of it.
I think that's a Bin Laden quote, and he was saying that around the Somalia time.
Yeah.
You guys got the watch, we got the time, and they absolutely do.
Yeah, I mean, I try and look for parallels and conflicts across the globe, specifically for some of the conflicts that I was a part of in Mexico, and seeing people fighting on their home turf, for places where they grew up, and the vested interest they have in kind of keeping some of those places in control or safe for themselves, and what that does is as far as a fighting force, versus people that are flying from across the world to just do what they're doing because of patriotism or some sort of process that they have to go through. They think they have to prove something to themselves and to the people around them. I don't know. It's a weird kind of like a place.
I'm evolving. I'm definitely evolving as a person. Where I came from as a veteran, combat veteran, and whatnot. My thoughts are evolving, and you have your crazy videos and whatnot you used to watch, and I don't even watch that stuff anymore. I turn my brain off to it just because I'm still working in it. And you deal with so much pain involved in that, and it's not just the loss of life, and it's the bigger secondary and tertiary effects, like our country as an ally. Who's going to listen to us anymore? Yeah. Who in the hell would listen to anything we have to say? You wonder why the president, no one will pick up his phone call? Because what guarantee could we make anybody now? Yeah. You go to Africa and be like, yeah, we're big bad America. We're big bad America. We'll protect you. You sure about that? Yeah. We have this big, huge, glaring example of why that's not going to work out for you. You know?
Yeah. I said that in one of the posts related to the when you were extracting yourself from Afghanistan. This lesson is going to be learned by the people that your sons and daughters are going to try and deal with later on. I mean, if they're looking for friends in the world, this is it's going to be pretty detrimental. That doesn't mean that I'm saying that the U.S. should have stayed there forever.
No. There's a way you could have done that.
But there's a way you could have done that, and that's, I don't know.
It's not ollie oxen free and fucking run for your lives, I
mean, some of that equipment is actually ending up in Mexico now.
Don't even get me started about this because we're going to veer off and talk about Ukraine. So, Afghanistan and Ukraine, and it's like, yes, we need to help those people, and, Russia's being pretty evil right now, but when you're just flooding that whole area, I did a post the other day on my Instagram, it's still up there, where it's already on the dark web. Yeah, javelin. It's missing the clue system, but it's got a javelin. You think that's the only one trading hands right now?
No, those are going to be out there. Probably we're going to learn about them later on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because you can effectively fire them at 747s. As long as it's within 1,500 meters. So God forbid one of those missiles goes anywhere outside the zone. And good thing we've given them 5 million of them.
Well, so. You go through the invasion. What was your you stop you go out there, deploy. How many times did you deploy?
Three times.
3 times.
They're all back to back. So we got done with like, I have one, and they got back and they're like, all right, everybody, we did it. We're American heroes. They're like, clean your shit. We're going right back. And 6 months later, we were back in Iraq for another 9 months. And then came back, and then we were home for about 7 months that time, and went back for that third one in 2006.
What happened after that, as far as where'd you go from there?
OAF2 was kind of rock and roll. There was a lot of IEDs out there, and there was a lot of creepy stuff happening out in the western part of Iraq. We'd like to say it was the land that the Marine Corps forgot. It was the edge of the empire. And it was Western Iraq, so you had the Jordanian border, the Syrian border, and Iraq. So not only are we in the Sunni triangle where you had the terrorism, you had criminality, you have sheep smuggling, you have also all these different facets that it's like now we're chasing sheep smugglers. It's like I didn't see we were doing that, but it had serious effects on the economy. But they blew us up. They just fucking blew us up every day, and I think lost 6-7 guys on that deployment, most of it all, except for Nick Dare, if he got the luckiest or the unluckiest RPG shot where he was got shot in his chest with an RPG, basically, but the rest of it was all IEDs,
And so that was an interesting aspect of that war. The Ukraine has shown us that anti-tank capabilities is pretty valuable as a defending force for them. For the Iraqis, IEDs, improvised explosive, and all the ordnances was everywhere that was being utilized to basically bog you down or slow down.
Yep.
The Americans.
I remember my friend, he did one in Afghanistan where they were, they're smart. They will canalize you. They'll watch your tactics. They'll look for you if you're aggressive. And there's all sorts of stories. I can tell you all sorts of stories. Marines were known to be aggressive. So I know for a fact, this came out of I think there was a book in Afghanistan where it was I'm not knocking the Army here, but they weren't a Victor unit. They weren't an infantry unit. They were like a supply company, but they have a certain way they operate. And Taliban, they shoot pot shots at them, when they drive by, but they knew the Army would just gas and floor it, and just go. So you could take your shots and not do anything. Then the Marines moved into town. And now they took pot shots out of them, and all the convoy stops, and all these dudes unasked, and we're running towards them. They're like, that's not supposed to happen. When I shoot at someone, they're not supposed to run at me. So cool, but then they got savvy, and they kept watching. Hey, these guys, the Marines, are aggressive. So put your guy out here on top of the wall and put a deep ambush here in the alley. Take the pot shots. They go, hey, diddle, diddle, right up the middle, and now it's a box ambush from the top of a roof.
So when these things were happening, I imagine there was after action stuff happening. Were there lessons being learned? Were the lessons being transferred? Were you guys basically not falling for it several times over?
Everyone had their own AO and their own thing. So I call it itchy and scratchy. So they do this, we do this. They started putting them in the roads, so we drove off the roads. So they started, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So internally we had our own thing, but unbeknownst to me at the time, the Marine Corps was building a really cool program. I actually kind of started around 2007, where they were taking all these lessons learned and applying and giving them breadth and okay, lessons learned. If you've ever read one of those things, like an after action, it's great information, but it's completely academic. It's it's a bullet 1, bullet 2. It doesn't give you the feel, the grit, okay, what do I need to do here to beat my enemy? So they started developing what's called the Combat Hunter program now. It's not really in the Marine Corps anymore, but this was a program that we developed because of all these casualties we were taking, IEDs and snipers, all sorts of threats on the battlefield. We had to get real good at being able to scan a crowd and pick out the bad person in a crowd without the advent of seeing a weapon. Everyone was looking for the bad guy who they think it's like spy versus spy with a trench coat and he's going to have his hand on the detonator. It's not that. Yeah. But there's certain behavioral indicators, fear-based behavioral indicators that can use to start scanning, and that's what we started doing and started getting smart.
So, this is how long into the war is this? The start of this program?
They started doing the experiments on it. They call them limited objective experiments, where you see if it's viable. They started doing that, I think, 2007, and then officially it rolled out in 2008, which is the exact point where I got to the program. I'd got out of the Marine Corps.
You got out of the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I did. I got out of the Marine Corps, and they stuck a FedEx in my door a year and a half. I was a civilian. I was working at Ford in Irvine, and they stuck a FedEx in my door with orders to get my ass back. I'd been recalled to the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So that's the first time that had happened since Desert Storm. Hey, look at that. Everyone thought it was because of the Arabic or whatever, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're Arabic." Had nothing to do with it. I get there and I'm talking to the people, and they're like, "Yeah, this is because of my Arabic stuff, right?" And they're like, "What Arabic stuff?" I was like, "Nothing at all.
Don't worry about it."
No, it was infantry. They wanted infantry. They wanted war fighters. So that's right when I'd landed at the Combat Hunter program, basically right when it stood up to the fleet and started training.
Awesome. So what was the pitch for the program for you guys? What was what
to make a more lethal, survivable, and observant Marine, basically, to make the enemy more dead and make our guys more alive, in a way that we hadn't done before. It's Marine Corps is about aggression and tactics and fire and maneuver and, winning by force. But this is a much softer skill, and it had to do with body language, nonverbals, biometric responses.
You think it's the, basically urban warfare, bigger crowds of people being part of the combat zone.
Yes.
I mean, the U.S. has had experiences like that before, but not in this specific kind of...
Think about it like this. If I had to put you on the ground in an area like that, full-on combat zone, but you don't get a gun, how would you operate? Would it be the same as if you had guns?
No.
Not even close.
No, you have to form a baseline.
You'd have to get savvy.
Wait,
yep.
see.
What is it, Hoyler Gracie? I'm going to mess this up. The smaller Gracie brother, who was sick, he was kind of sicker. That's how he developed his style of jiu-jitsu. Same thing. When you don't have the advent of a weapon system, you got to get smarter, and that's what we did with the program. And we brought in people like law enforcement professionals, guys that have the job like 30 years. They were really good about the nonverbal, biometric kind of responses.
So people that have been on the beat for years that know how to interview a suspect somewhere in a dangerous city and
that have the vibe, that have the, cops will tell you. You've probably seen a dude, maybe you can, like, I get this from prison guards a lot. Prisoner guards or sheriffs, they can spot inmates out in town all the time, quickly. Inmates walk in a certain way, and they can pick them out in the crowd. Same kind of thing. Same kind of concept with the law enforcement side. They have that street smarts.
Yeah.
But then, that was only one component. So another component is observation. So we have these human sensory systems, our eyes, our brain. Your eye is just an organ that takes in information. Your brain's the one that processes it. So you have to make sure your brain's working the right way under the right processes, because most of us are kind of fucked up. Most of us are following the wrong processes, but all it takes is someone to show you. So, a simple thing, pair of binos. We, Marine Corps, really brought back binos. Binos haven't really been utilized in the military that much in the past conflict, the past 20 years, Iraq, Afghanistan. Some of your listeners might be like, what do you mean we don't use binos? We would to an extent, but they're the crappy little 2-power scout binos you'd throw in your back pocket. You can actually utilize, a pair of binos and take your hands, instead of holding them like this, like everyone does, all you're going to do is cup them with your hands a little bit. All you're doing is covering the eyelids. So you ever stare too long at a scope and your eye gets fatigued? All you got to do is you can sit there all day. If I could take someone who's never had a pair of binos and show them that trick, that's good. So we brought in big game hunters from like South Africa, and guys would be like shooting lions and stuff, and they'd do these. And then the third component was the man tracking. Everyone loves the man tracking, actually following footprints in the ground, tracking people down in a combat situation. There's all sorts of different types of tracking out there. There's like search and rescue. There's animal tracking, but this is a very specific type of tracking developed in Rhodesia by a very specific person that's meant to locate, close with, and destroy the enemy.
I had some tracking training myself, like going through my career, and it's very different tracking something that's running away over something that might stop, double back, and shoot you in the head.
Bambi ain't got a PKM.
No.
Bambi does not have a PKM,
But remember the whole aspect of it slowing everything down, right? If you're running towards somebody or are you slowing down, looking, observing, seeing things from different levels, and you're young.
Yep.
I remember when I was in my 20s, somebody took a pot shot at it as I would run and figure out a way to get those guys. And retribution was in my mind, not observation or figuring things out.
Yep.
So, I imagine having some of these young Marines go through that program, having that kind of mindset already culturally programmed into them. And all of a sudden you tell them, oh, wait, dude, slow down. Observe.
If you want to, if you got a fighting dog, I don't want to have to kick it in the ass. I want to hold back on the leash. So that's what all Marines are. You always got to hold back on. So as a teacher, you got to understand that. So I just let them fuck it up. I just put them through all sorts of pain. I'll give them so for example, there's a hill, one of the tracking components is exactly what you're talking about. Not just slowing down, but making the tempo work for you. So that can mean slow down, or it can mean speed up, because you can make your quarry, again, it's not Bambi, you can make them make mistakes, because if they're in that survival mindset, you can push that tempo. But you got to be aware of your equipment and physicality. There's a hill in Pendleton, and it's called I don't know, it's some horrible name, Nutbuster. I can't remember. It's by Tulaga. It's like a sheer cliff like this. It's a fire break. It's not a hill. It's a fire break. And what I would like to do in our track instructors, we take those young buck Marines, recon Marines. God bless them. I love them, but they can go full retard sometimes. They just hate diddle right up the middle. So I'll take them to the base of that. I'll be their quarry. And I'll tell them, hey, you guys better slow down. You're overshooting. You're doing this. And they won't listen. So what I'll do is I'll, kind of get away from them, get some distance, and I'll beat my feet all the way up that fire break. It sucks. You're sucking wind. But I get to about halfway up there, and I'll just sit down, eat a peanut butter sandwich, and I see them pop up over the ridge, and you'll see them, and you'll see the hands pointing, and you see the chat. You get them all excited, and you see them start running. And like lo and behold, they gas out, about a third of the way up. And I calmly get up and I walk, and I make them walk up all the way. And they get to the top, and that's where we have the maybe you should slow down, boys, debrief. And they're like, okay, we get it.
It's an interesting mix of basically you have to look back and look at other people and doing different jobs and just being in a Marine in a combat zone, hunters, people that were tracking. Police officers. Now, it's like it sounds very esoteric,
It is. Combat hunter is like I used to tell people, combat hunter is like what you always wanted to join the military for.
Yeah.
Like goggles down, pew, like cool stuff, tracking, hide and seek. You join and you realize it's none of that, and my life sucks, you know. But the tracking and the profiling component.
People
light up.
Yeah, I mean it's training and an aspect of preparation that you can take with you even after service, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What was it like not only being a veteran, like a combat veteran, and now instructing people that were in your shoes?
Yeah.
Who were about to go off and face unspeakable and unknowable horrors as far as what they were going to witness. For you, like teaching them some of this stuff, and also was there a sense of urgency behind some of the stuff that you like, hey, I know you're all like gung-ho, but like chill out, slow down.
So I done my deployments, got back to combat in 2000. In 2008, started training up the fleet. By then, combat was pretty heavy. We were rocking and rolling. Iraq was dying down, and we started picking up in Afghanistan. So all of our people were deploying. When you had a student, we ran a lot of training. When you came in, those Marines were locked and cocked, because 4 weeks later, they're on a plane to Afghanistan. 4 weeks later, and it was an infantry-focused course. So it wasn't like randos in there. It's like you're deploying to go shoot people in the face or get shot. So we never had a problem. Till one day, something clicked. The deployments slowed down. Afghanistan started slowing down. And they started to get these off-brand weird missions all over the world. So I was having trouble connecting with some of these guys. And they're coming from no combat, no Iraq or Afghanistan, but they were still doing some crazy stuff. And I had to train them. So that was interesting, seeing the urgency go away, seeing the combat minds, and that's a bad thing. You want to keep that around. But also seeing the young guys evolve. Look at Marines nowadays, man. They look like Delta Force. Your most private, like junior Marine, if he's in the infantry, has dual nods, silence, whatever. The stuff they're doing there is wild. I wish every day I could I'd stop whatever I'm doing and reset the clock and go back to boot camp today. I'd do it all in a heartbeat, because they're doing some wild, cool stuff.
Yeah, generational. You're speaking. It's a different. I mean, a lot of those lessons learned, a lot of the lacking in equipment, a lot of the advancements in tactics and weapons and all that stuff. I mean, they're benefiting from a 20-plus year war, basically.
The medicine, you got Rangers who are doing this wild. I just saw a whole video on it. It's a in-field blood transfusion in the middle of a gunfight. They're taking rounds. A dude goes down. They have this whole program, and that's blowing my mind. I just read that the other day.
We went through, when I was active, we went through some weird training in Coronado, and a corpsman showed us some wild stuff related to just being able to treat a bullet wound out in the middle of nowhere. He was the first one I heard. Just pack a wound with dirt. You're in the middle of a city. The hospital's nearby. Infection is going to be probably at the end of the spectrum of things you can worry about.
Open.
Yeah. Just pack it with dirt. It's like, what? Yeah, we've done it. And then you're like, oh, I mean, who would know best about how to do something like that than somebody who's got like a generation of people that have gone through that conflict zone. It's been an interesting aspect of seeing how some of those. I mean, if anything, the U.S. has been very good about keeping notes on what it does.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
very good.
And developing new things. Yeah,
related to conflict and war. That's outside observation of it. It's been very interesting seeing how some of those lessons get applied, learned, and then turn into equipment and then training, and then how, like my unit here in Mexico was the first one that would carry armed cat tourniquets. Not a lot of people carry them. Not a lot of people even know what they were.
Yep.
And we learned that from the U.S. members of the U.S. military that are coming back from that conflict, right? And showed us a few things about how to secure it. I remember us bringing up the fact that some of these things would come undone if we were dragging somebody across a carpet.
Ooh.
And they were like, because
I'd pull the cat. Yeah, that'd pull it apart. Yeah.
And they were describing how some of the houses that they were encountering out there were covered in carpet, and how they would have to solve that with duct tape to secure.
I remember it was a big issue. It was those cat tourniquets too, and because if you saw Marines, they'd have them everywhere. Basically, but they were pulling them out of the packaging, and they dry rot. And guys would patrol for 3 months, and you go to twist one on, it snaps in your hand, and everyone's snapped.
That lesson we didn't learn. Later on, they told us about maybe the fact that UV is going to be affecting them, and we'd have them in the open, and they would snap. So,
I remember doing a TCCC course, and fantastic. When I came in, it was buddy aid. Self-aid, buddy aid. They had Quick Clot, and they're like, "Here's Quick Clot, just pour it on there and you're good. It just solves all your problems." So I'm like, all right. And then it evolved to, I took another one. And I remember being, butthurt about it. I was like, I don't want to do TCCC. And they brought in a corpsman. This is the most badass medical course I've done. He went into treatments. We had to sign off on cat tourniquet, but he was talking about assessment. He goes, this is how you assess a patient at P-March. I had this whole thing. And I was like, I've never been taught that. That's awesome. And it's like, do we need to put a tourniquet on right now, or do we need to treat this head wound? What's more, and we had nurses. We had 2 nurses, city nurses out in town. And one of the things you actually have to do is a crike, a field crike, where you open up the throat. And they showed a video. They didn't do it, but they just showed a video. It's like, hey, in the field, you can do whatever you got to do. And they had someone do a crike with 2 keys.
Yeah.
And the nurses were like, you would never do that. They had a big freak out with the instructors. They're like, I can't believe you showed that. You would never do that, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you and us live in completely different worlds, and they couldn't fathom. These are ER nurses, and they just couldn't fathom that.
I mean, it's a different world. So your pace is slowing down as far as conflicts. Conflicts are getting smaller, more specific in different parts of the world.
I'll give you an example. They start flying us to Japan. I went to Japan 5 times in 1 year because an ETT team, a advisor team in Afghanistan, who come to find out we're all non-combat. They just volunteered. Yeah, we'll be on a 4-man ETT team in the middle of Afghanistan. Yeah, sure, we'll be hooked with an Afghan company out there in nowhere. Yeah, nothing bad could happen. And there was an incident where one of these ETT teams went down there, and I think they all got killed because the lieutenant couldn't call in a bird. He couldn't land the bird, and he couldn't identify the enemy positions, and he didn't have any info, and they all got killed. So as soon as that happened, that's what I mean by strange, random, not your normal training.
This is when they started going into nation building, basically.
Yeah, and then I remember a gunny, I won't say his name, but he actually told me he'd just come back from ET. He goes, how I left my tour on ETT, he was the gunny and he had a major with him, was I had an Afghani and I had a gun to his head. He was like the Afghani company commander. He had a gun to his head while they backed into the Black Hawk, and the entire company Afghanis had guns on them. He goes, that's how we ended the last one. I was like, well, right.
Yeah.
Let's get to training.
You're there instructing. Obviously, as an instructor there, you also get access to a bunch of training for yourself, right?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Can you comment on some of the interesting things you got to basically?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a good question. So they schooled us up, and they were the normal, semi-normal Marine Corps ones, but they're normally, you wouldn't get them all. So I went to the marksmanship coaches, PMI and all that. I went to a foreign weapons course. We had to be certified in that. I thought I knew shit about guns.
Yeah.
I thought I knew shit about guns till they sent me to Virginia with a bunch of podunk good old boys with big old dips in their mouth. And I'm like, yeah, what are these guys going to teach me? Those guys were like professors of gunship. Like there's stuff I've never ruled about recoil operating systems. So that was a great time.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, basically they show you what type of firearms you might encounter out there in the field, to not only how to operate them, but also maybe to instruct somebody else how to do it. Or like if you encounter a Soviet RPG out there.
Yep. Not only, shoot them, do all that good stuff, but actually employ them in a maneuver capacity. And it was cool because we thought we were going to shoot AKs and whatever, but we shot AKs, PKMs, RPKs, and we had 4 Tiger Dragunovs, black on black, that are from Izmish factory in Russia. And they told us, they're like, yeah, the State Department had to do a big thing. It was a big thing to try to get these, but I shot a Dragon. We shot G3s, everything. We shot a bunch of stuff. MP5 SD, which was, you could just hear, you know about those. You can just hear the bolt cycling, But that Dragunov, man, that's the first time I ever shot that. It was a shitty day and it was overcast. The scope actually, the PSO scope actually had moisture in it. Yeah. So there were like driplets and all that at 600 yard line. Not even trying, I was pinging steel 600 yards, headshot, bing.
And
bing.
For people to kind of like comprehend why that is an interesting thing for you to experience, you were showing other people not to get shot with that specific firearm in a war zone. Yeah. But you had never been behind the glass of something like that. Yeah. So now you're not only getting the experience of shooting it,
you're getting the oh shit moment. Bam, this thing works.
this thing works.
This ain't some beat up AK.
Yeah. That's an interesting aspect.
Because like you ever shot I'm sure you have a precision rifle, like an American made, an Accuracy International. My buddy Kyle, man, he's a Marshak guy. He likes some big guns. He has a Desert Tech Desert Tech 338 Lapua. It's a bullpup, okay? Yeah. He loads up the magazine. He's like, go ahead. The scope is so high speed. The scope's like this big. You can see like Mars. I can't even get my eye relief right. I'm all over the place. I fire around. It feels like a flashbang went off in my mouth. I'm like, the muzzle's like that far away. And I'm like, bro, no, that's too much, But the Dragunov, no scope shadow. It's just easy. You can tell it's built for a not very educated military. Conscript. It comes out of the box and it wails away at 600 yards. Whereas, the other sniper, you have to train them, precision system. That was interesting.
That's an interesting thing. Yeah. These, they have the Soviet bloc weaponry has like a, they don't jam, they don't fail. I mean, they'll jam, they'll fail, but they're made like,
all those tolerances,
the tolerances, and also they're made to like, here you go, this is how you operate it.
Click.
There you go. Oh, but what about that kid? He can't charge that AK. The kid puts the rifle on the ground and just uses his foot to charge it.
Yep.
I saw that somewhere in Culiacan, and it was pretty fascinating to see that, right? But
a foreign weapons course and a bunch of smattering of some other cool and some law enforcement. But we did also as part of instructor, development. You do ride-alongs with LAPD, you do ride-alongs with Border Patrol. We got into some pretty cool places, like places we shouldn't have been. It's like I remember, I won't say what agency, but they're like, hey, I think that guy's going off there. Hey, you get in the truck and follow me over there. It's like, me? Because I'll do it. I'll come bring the shotgun too. And it's like, yeah, you're good. Some agencies are very stringent, some not so much.
Yeah, cowboys.
Cowboys. It was fun on the border learning about that and, getting into the profiling. It was really cool. Coyotes, man, it's very interesting. And I don't know which Border Patrol agent, but it made so much sense when she said it. That's how a lot of this stuff is. But he goes, look, you have a coyote. He's like the handler. He's in charge of 30 people. He has to get 30 people across the border. And, if he goes to the Walmart and he needs to buy shoes, what's he doing? He's not buying, hey, give me a size 8 in those, 9 and 10 in those, He's going, give me that Reebok. Give me all of them that Reebok in size 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you have a group of people all wearing the same shoes, and then one guy with some Danners, and you're like, come here, guy. Let me talk to you real quick with their $200 boots on.
That's a pretty easy way to kind of tell apart who the management is, basically. Yeah. It's an interesting little observation.
And you would think, before I said that, you'd be like, oh, who are the Coyotes? It's like, just look at the shoes, man. Look down. That's all you got to do this.
Like for us, like small things like that, small details. I remember the older guys would show us some of this stuff, like checking people's hands to see if they have a callus on their this finger from holding an AK or an AR for a long period of time with your finger on it.
I would do that in Iraq with the hands. I remember a couple times we got weird vibes, and everyone's a farmer on a falah. And like I remember this guy had Baghdad plates, and he goes, "Oh, I'm a farmer." And I grabbed his hands. I'm like, "Yeah." Had like lotion on him. I'm like, "You over moisturized today, bro."
That leadership, people that had good teeth in a group of people, those guys were like, So we got to learn about dentistry, and how
interesting. Right? Yeah, that's cool.
Tattoos, all of these things. But the older guys, we didn't have a hunter program. We had an old dude next to us,
an old head,
slap us in the back of the head, if we did something stupid. But I remember how this whole process of learning from the observations of the guys that were behind us, and then adding on our own experience to it, and then having that transference of information to the next generations. But Mexico isn't good at keeping notes. We don't do that. Every 6 years we burn the book. Basically.
Hey, look at us right now, man. Where the Americans aren't that much greater. Like military, it happens every time. This just happened to the combat 100. Doesn't, for all intents and purposes, combat 100 doesn't really exist anymore in what it used to be. No one's being trained in it anymore. It's when wars happen, just like back in the day, and like in World War I. Hey, we got these snipers. They're really effective on the battlefield. The war's over. Hey, thanks, guys. And then World War II, same thing. Thanks, guys. And then Vietnam, finally someone's like, maybe we should keep snipers.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, the evolution of Combat Hunter. It's what you said. It's like those people have the knowledge, but it never gets passed on.
So just observing what's happening in Ukraine right now. If let's imagine you were in charge of that program again, prepping people to go out there for some reason. What are some of the lessons what are some of the lessons you've taken note of as far as this conflict?
So Ukraine specifically, it's huge on observation and camouflage and concealment. Cover doesn't do shit against the javelin. No, javelin eats your cover for breakfast. So you have to be so good you're concealed. Ukrainians got a home turf advantage, man. There's like 200,000 Russian soldiers. There's 1.5 million of them. So all the Ukrainians have to do is, all they have to do. What I would be looking at, major patterns of movement in areas you can canalize and get all their armor in a valley somewhere and just dump into it.
It's interesting to see the vast amount of tanks and stuff like that the Russians had said they had, and seeing all this old equipment out there now that was abandoned, a lot of it. Their world war game champion tank driver getting killed probably the first month he was there or something like that. It's a full breakdown. Like you've watched like all the Murphy's rules, like, don't happen. Like all the things you and people like us have worried about, like, don't do this will happen. It's like you're seeing a full breakdown of a military. And another thing when it comes to observation and devices, if I was the Ukrainians, I'd be all over night vision and laser aiming devices at night because Russia doesn't even have that ability. So it's like you could, people would say, oh, we own the night. You rent the night. But like these Ukrainians, that's their home. They could literally own the night. And I guarantee they're doing it. Like I guarantee Ukrainian SOF is putting foot to ass. Like this, we're just hearing about the stuff that's public. 10 years from now, we're going to see what really happened on the ground. It's been fascinating also to see how social media, specifically for this conflict, a lot of people out there have pretty good smartphones, and some of the stuff that's coming out during the initial parts of that, seeing people arm themselves, getting armed, seeing people without any experience with a rifle all of a sudden getting a crash course in how to operate an AK in a room somewhere, grandmothers, mothers, and daughters preparing Molotov cocktails with styrofoam. There's a grandma is intercepted Russian whatever, and I'm on Twitter all day. That's my vice, and I'm seeing all these intercepted radio transmissions, phone calls, and it talked about an entire squad of Russian soldiers killed because a grandma was like, hey, you guys hungry? Y'all look hungry. And they're like, oh yes, we're hungry. And she put rat poison in a pie, and it's like, how do you fight that?
You know, it's like, where's the end state, Russia? Okay, you win. You win Ukraine. What are you doing here, bro?
Well, there's been a bunch of propaganda on both sides.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting. Also seeing the story of the island, the island, the defenders that was turned out to be, not real.
Yeah.
Or the Kiev, the
ghost of Kiev,
which was, if any fake story I wish was real, that was cool. Like a lone jet fighter flying over
just
there.
Top Gun it.
That would be great.
Living life.
But there was a story about this lady that walked up to a Russian soldier and handed him sunflower seeds. And she said, "Put these in your pocket so at least flowers will grow when you die here." Right?
That's gangster. That's horrible.
I thought when I heard that, that lady.
What do you do with that? What do you do with those people? You're going to occupy them?
I mean, I think Russia tried to capture not only the military, but also the infrastructure. Yeah. That's why they're not
intact.
Yeah. I think they're at a point where they're like, let's just bomb.
It's getting there. That's another thing, Ed. Like we talked about earlier about Afghanistan and Iraq. Like they talk about pain. I'm just getting softer in my old age. It's like you look around like John Coffey. Man, I'm sick of all this fucking sadness and pain. Yeah. And it's like, this might be an unpopular opinion. Like, there's Russian military service members doing evil, horrible shit right now. Yeah. Raping kids, horrible stuff that they'll get theirs. The world's watching. They're going to get theirs. But I can't believe that there's not another contingent of young Russian soldiers, conscripts, who have no fucking idea what's going on. They got thrown into a meat grinder, and they were just white. Like any one of those catastrophes that you heard of, like in the first days of the invasion, it would be like a whole generational military catastrophe. They were having them like 6-7 times a day, and those kids didn't do shit. They joined the army. There's stories, some of them knew. Again, for those assholes out doing dirt, you need to die, you need to get shot, but that's another part of the pain there. It's all-encompassing pain this war brings along. It's like no one's going to come out of this clean. No one's going to come out happy after however this works out.
You think it's like a sign of things to come as far as conflicts globally right now? I mean, I think for me, China's paying close attention to what that looks like for them when they eventually, and I think it's going to happen.
I think China's biding their time because they see a bunch of people with their head on fire, and they're like, you know what? We're not that bad right now, so we're just going to chill real quick.
We're not going to go into Taiwan.
Yeah. China has hundreds and hundreds of years of isolationism. The first 600 years of the empire, I think, was complete. You couldn't even land on their shores. And I'm wondering if maybe we need a little bit of that for a little bit, not landing on our shores, but... there's a sci-fi book I read. I love sci-fi, man. I'm an avid reader, and there's one book where basically aliens show up to the world, and they're all powerful. There's nothing we can even do to fight them. The only way your world lives is if you can produce something like that helps out. And what does Earth come up with? What do you think Earth produce? What's the service that Earth provides the rest of the galaxy?
I have no idea.
They looked at everything, and they're like, you know what? We're really good at war. And they're like, yeah, you are good. You guys are assholes, but you're pretty good. So that's the storyline, is like our export. I feel like in America, that's our export for a long time.
Warfighters.
Yeah, warfighters, man. 20 years of some knockout, drag out. Look at that force. Yeah. Like American against Russian right now. You're talking about, Mike Ritlin on his podcast. And Mike had this thing where he talked about cops and all these liberal people want to defund the cops. It's like, there's been 20 years of hardcore war. Like, they've been to places you don't understand. Like, the cops are the only ones holding these people back. They're the thin blue line between these people who get shit done in bad ways you don't want to talk about. And we don't want that here. That's, over there in military, but that's poignant. Yeah. That's poignant,
Yeah. You go through the process of not only becoming an instructor, at a level, showing all these people that are now going to go off and fight their own war, which is an interesting aspect of it. Yeah. Like for me, going from somebody that did stuff now to go with somebody that teaches it. Now, like I've had the experience of sending people off to do things, and you feel some weird responsibility there.
It's like your kids walking away a little bit.
You feel a responsibility of people like that are now going off, and some of the things that you learn through experience or that were hard lessons to learn. You're like, hopefully you save them from some of these mistakes.
Hopefully I gave him something. One
yeah.
thing that can buy him half a second, 1 second, something, you know.
Do you have any, after actions from people that were sitting in on one of your class? Like, I remember having the experience sitting in on one of your presentations, and I'm like, fuck, I wish I had heard this.
That's a common thing.
10 years ago.
That's I literally every time I go to teach anybody. So mostly it's civilians now, organizations.
I'll mention exactly what I heard. You were talking about one of the snipers that was active in Iraq, Juba sniper, and how everybody was focusing on looking. I mean, there's a sniper. Like when you say sniper, where do you look?
Yeah, up and out. Yep, rooftops. Yep.
I went through an experience. Somebody got shot, and we couldn't figure out where that shot came from, and everybody was looking.
It's a natural reaction. If no one told you, it wouldn't do anything different.
And then somebody else got shot. And then when somebody else got shot, saw the disturbance and saw where figured it out. It was daylight, so we couldn't see a flash, but it was very specific. But I remember you talking about that and having those moments like, I wish I knew that. Has anybody like come back with an experience like that?
We have tons of them, and there's a lot of them. There's one I like to tell. It's from Afghanistan, but for as many cool combat stories as I have, and a lot of them are comments. Like this one guy, he was 9 deployments, Green Beret, 9 deployments, got out, became a contractor, did 3 more deployments, tip of the spear, doing some ISIS stuff, and like to get a comment from a guy like that, he goes, you in 3 weeks have trained me more than, he goes, this type of training I had to get over a career in the Green Berets, over 5 or 6 different schools that I had to go to. He goes, you guys just knocked it out in 3 weeks. So hearing stuff like that's always good. But one portion that makes me feel good, I know guys walked away okay, is there was a abandoned compound in Afghanistan. This is 7th Marines. They called us at our hooch in Combat Hunter from a secure phone of, one of the green phones, and they're like, hey, you're getting a secure call from Afghanistan tomorrow, and we're in San Clemente, and we're like, what the fuck? I'm like, what did I do? Did I do a war crime or something? Did our students do a war crime? And the whole command staff was on a speakerphone, and they're like, hey, we just wanted to call and tell you this story. So a bunch of their guys got trained by us, but a lieutenant was one of them. They're going to an abandoned compound. And in Afghanistan, I'd never been there. Abandoned compound was like a euphemism, like we're going to get blown up. No one abandons compounds in Afghanistan unless it's a reason. So they're already got contact in their head, and they're ready to rock and roll. And they head out there right before they get to the car, like real close to the compound. They take contact, sporadic gunfire, but they immediately drop down, and the squad leader's yelling at the Marines to get in the building. Hey, get in the complex, get in the complex. The lieutenant, for whatever reason, this is how it works sometimes, for whatever reason, stops and grabs and goes, stop, stay down. They're getting shot at. He hasn't maintained cover. He runs over with a combat ladder and hops up on the wall, and he looks down into the courtyard. And he goes, I can't even tell you what I saw. He goes, I just got a bad feeling. Going back on it, when he looked at it again, it was an abandoned compound, and when he looked around the 4 corners, there was fresh spore disturbance. You could tell someone under an hour ago had made this disturbance, and that's what he caught. And he jumped off. He goes, nope, run in the bushes. And they ran into like a shitty piece of cover, still took some shots, returned fire. Then these guys run away. No more shots. So they get it all done, and he's kind of getting into it with the squad leader. The squad leaders say, hey, why'd you stop? Why'd you, whatever. And they bring the engineer. A long story short, they go scan the thing with the engineer. 13 daisy-chained IEDs on the inner side of the courtyard, on the inside of the wall where we all take cover. That was a squad of Marines, so 15, 16 Marines probably with a lieutenant. That would have been a mass casualty. They would have been picking up pieces of them. This courtyard's probably twice as big as the room we're in, maybe 100, 50 feet across.
How does it feel like to take a call like that?
That felt good. I choke up. I choke up big time, and the tearing up happens worse and worse now when I get older.
Is it? For me, it's always been like, you go and do shit, and some of it is pretty hard, and some of it is not there's no way you can justify it to anybody ever, you know?
Usually ends in pain.
Usually ends in pain. You get so few moments of
Good.
of that, right?
Yep. Yeah.
You know,
I was in a domestic violence situation in Iraq, which is weird. We were outside of Fallujah. This is for the fake pump, not the big push, but it was still rock and roll. And we're patrolling down the middle of, it was kind of a suburb of Fallujah on the outskirts. We're walking a pretty heavily urban area. One gunshot rings out. This gunshot's AK probably 50, 60 feet away from us. And we're like, here we go, rock and roll again. So me and my buddy, Brian, he peels off when we hit this house where the gunshot's coming from. For whatever reason, you do weird shit, We're a two-man, we split. He goes to the right side of the house, and I go to the left. And we have other people coming behind us, but we're the first ones on the scene, and we're running. And I'm just running. I take the corner first, obviously, before Brian gets over. And I turn the corner, and I pick up my rifle, about to kill somebody. And here's this older guy. There's one kid laid out on the ground. His head's bleeding everywhere. This one older guy is hacking away at this one kid with a shovel, hitting him with it, And that's what I see. So and one guy's got an AK. So one guy's holding the AK at all these three people. This guy's beating this guy. This guy's bleeding. I'm going, what the shit? And I just walk into it. And they see me, and they act like I just walked on with their pants down. They're all just freeze, and they go, oh, my God. And I'm going, put the gun down, put the gun down. This is when Brian comes around the corner, and he's pulling the slack off his trigger. And I was like, no, stop. And he kind of stopped, and the guy dropped the gun and started talking. I'm like, what the hell? It turned out it was a domestic sheep situation where one sheep had been eaten on this side too much. So the old guy hit the young kid in the head with a shovel. This guy went and brought his AK, and we turned the corner right when all that happened. So
bumping into this.
Yeah, we thought it was an Al-Qaeda cell. No, it was a domestic sheep situation. So,
having the ability to discern when not to shoot.
Slow down. Yep.
Slow down.
Yep.
So how long were you in that program?
So I was there, that was 2008. I was there as a Marine for about 4 years, flying around all over the place. I went to get out of the Marine Corps because my time was done. I'd been recalled, and my time was done. They gave us like one extension, and they're like, that's it. You're turning into pumpkins. You're going away. And they said, hey, you want a job? So like literally they did my award ceremony, and I came back, with a polo and a beard on, Monday morning. I checked in. So I checked out with a guy named Captain John Dick. That's his real name. Great guy. Checked out. He's my captain. He's the guy in charge of me. I checked out with him on a Friday, and came to Monday. I'm like, hey, what's up, bud? How you doing, guy? And he was my, so it was a very weird situation. Spent another 5 years there as a civilian, again, traveling, training everything around. And then really everything started to die down. The deployments really weren't as hot as they were anymore. And that's when I started, realizing there was a need and a want for these type of skills, out in America, our world here, dealing with schools and active shooters. There's so much violence out there. And that's kind of going back to the pain thing. I'm sick of all this sadness and pain. So if you and me were those guys that had to go stare this nasty shit in the face, no bueno for us, but at least we have skills that we can pass to other people that they don't have to see that vileness. Hey, why do I need to do this tip you just told me? Don't worry about it. Just if you get in a situation, do it. It'll help you out. So that's what kind of veered me off from there. But yeah, spent about 9-10 years there at the program, awesome. As a Marine and a civilian,
Yeah. So this is something I get a lot questions of. My experience was, kind of different, but did things, paramilitary training and all the stuff that I, went through, and the stuff you went through. What does that have to teach? I don't know, a dude that works selling insurance policies somewhere, and has a family maybe, and he's interested in keeping his family safe because he just saw some stuff on the news that is worried. He's not a war fighter. He's not going to go off to war. He's not have to. I don't think he has to worry about a sniper. Although Las Vegas shooting and all the stuff that's happening has happened in recent years. I get called an alarmist or like I'm exaggerating threats or fear mongering sometimes by some people that are, are out there. If fear mongering or like your head, like not everything is that bad, or you know,
most of the stuff you talk about is pretty bad.
Well, I mean specifically, like so I worked in Mexico. I wasn't in tourism, you know, like I got to see some pretty bad stuff. So that's what I talk about. But like for you, going from showing warfighters that are going off into a conflict zone to now sitting down and talking to somebody that just wants to be a bit more aware of what's happening because some of the stuff on the news is concerning. What changes as far as your process, and how do you format that for somebody like that?
The process is relatively the same. You know, the verbiage is the same. The situations and examples I might give might be different. With military specifically, you know, there's a component of aggressiveness, you know, speed, surprise, and violence of action. So with the military, with a force that's supposed to do that, if I'm teaching a bunch of truck drivers, you know, probably not going to teach them that. But if it's infantry, recon, or combat arms, you know, I'm going to add in the aggressive component. Whereas when I'm teaching it, normal people, everyday people, is we don't really have that aggressive. We have aggressive defense component, like aggressively run your ass out of there if you figure something out. Most people look at the realm of situational awareness and the analysis we're talking about. They think you got to be guys like us, Ed. Every time they're like, "Oh man, I really want to do this training. I want to take your course, but I wasn't in the Marine Corps." It's like, okay, you're standing here in front of me breathing alive. Apparently your awareness was good enough into this point in your life. I don't know, maybe you haven't been tested, but you're alive. So step one, you're alive, you haven't died yet. We can teach you awareness. And another thing is making people realize the times we're in right now. Times are very different. Times are changing rapidly. And I'm saying times are changing in the last 6 months to the next 6 months from now, not like, in the last 20 years. We're seeing upticks in violence. The economy's taking a crap, so that's always going to add violence to it. So understand that we're transitioning from maybe it was good times, but we're getting into those bad times now and people change. And on the behavior side is understanding most people, we're looking to stop the bang event. Bang is your bad event. That one thing in the middle of this timeline that I don't want to happen. Getting shot, raped, mugged, whatever it is. Most of the people out there are operating to the right of that timeline where they're looking, all right, when the active shooter walks in here, I'm going to do this and then I'm Judy chop him. You know, it's all reactionary. I have a video of a school shooter where these cops, you know, showed a school shooting, and the guy comes in with an AK and a shotgun on his back. He opens the door and he's rocking and rolling with his AK, flipping magazines. It's like you're not doing anything in that situation. So it's to stop looking at the bang and looking at the pre-event indicators, everything left of that, everything on the other side. If you can just get people to understand that there's a behavior that will show someone their exact, or pretty much their intention towards you, you just have to look for it, you know. Then once someone shows you, when someone takes your head and goes, look, you know, hey, when you make a scuff in the ground, that can last us. It's not rocket science, you know. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense. If I'm tracking someone and it's a hot day and I pick my head up and I have no idea where the tracks are going, what can I do? I can look up in my thing and go, okay, I'm a human. I'm hot. The sun's out. I want shade. I want water. Yeah. So I can look out at my terrain and go, there, and there. Hey, guys, go check those spots out. You know, instead of like wandering around. So that's the kind of concept.
So like school shootings right now are that's the thing, you know. Restrictions are coming, the laws are changing, all of that. If you could sit down with anybody that's concerned about some of that stuff and has their kid somewhere in the school, like what would you like when you talk about some of those indicators? And I think a big part of it, my opinion, a big part of it is that the kids are not in the conversation. I think.
Yeah, and the kids aren't all right.
The kids aren't all right, and the kids are not part of the conversation. Mental health and medication, we can talk about that another time, but specifically, I think that the kids are not part of the conversation. Solutions about arming teachers, solutions about locking down schools, but I rarely see anybody talking about social media and how it's done some things to the awake kids.
Something's happened,
right? Like what observation wise, like what would you tell a parent that has a kid in school as far as not only them being observant, but what should their kids be watching out for?
Yeah. So there's two schools of thought here. You could train the parents and the staff, and then you can train the kids too. But the stuff I'm talking about if we were to train the kids in this stuff and you hypothetically did have a shooter, they would use this information. So having kids as part of the conversation, definitely training them, how to react, cool. But where I focus on is the slowing down the events and attacking it from different vectors. Okay, everyone wants to talk about the gun right now, like the gun vector. Make guns illegal. If they made guns illegal today, we all know there's 400 million guns in there.
This is Mexico. Yeah. Very restricted gun laws. Ammo was cheaper here during the COVID epidemic.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you could get a gun anywhere.
In Afghanistan, they were still shooting at us with Mosin Nagants that the British left in 1850. The last time they did exactly what we did. Big circle in there. So what I do is, you attack the vectors and the planning and the preparation behavior, and you look at some of the FBI studies and they go, hey, these people will plan and think about this stuff for a year, 2 years, maybe even 10 years. But when it comes to enacting the plan, now I've made a decision, like, all right, on this day I'm going to go. It looks like it's about a week time frame, about 7 days of planning and preparation, procuring equipment before they commit that act. So if you can look for these indicators, like people talk about inordinate amount of weapons or inappropriate weapons, okay? What's inappropriate in a baseline? Okay, if a kid grew up in Missouri and hunted his whole life and has camo and has guns, that's one thing. That's part of the baseline. But if a kid who was into comic books and had nothing to do with guns or didn't have them in the house, all of a sudden they're procuring or talking about it. Am I saying rush over there and Goldberg them? No, it's a data point. The shooter, you talk about Instructor and you want to look at for those behaviors, they have to make their way into the facility. So I'm looking for, weapons manipulation behavior. If I want to take a rifle, am I wearing a t-shirt? Am I wearing a jacket to conceal it? So before the gun gets into the campus, are there vectors we can slow them down? Charlie Hebdo attack. Remember that one? They had threats before. They had basically a Secret Service member in the office where they got shot up. Okay. They had a big, thick security metal door on the outside that you had to have a key card to get in, right? Okay. Well, what did they do? They just sat there and waited for the first employee to show. They put a gun to their head, give me your key card.
Yeah, let's go in.
And now they have full access. So a simple thing like that door, great. Have someone on the other side of that that can look at a face and go, okay, you're coming in here, you're not coming in here, So things of that nature. Looking at planning, preparation, behavior, and slowing down through every vector I can.
Yeah. Okay. So if you look at some of these, like what are some of the patterns that you're noticing as far as some of the things that are changing with some of these shootings? Like recently, the age groups of some of these recent shooters is interesting to me.
The tactical component.
The tactical component, and also the fact that some of them seem to have exposure through YouTube.
The Buffalo shooting, yep.
YouTube, I don't know. But at least exposure to rudimentary. I mean, the Buffalo shooting, people say like, oh, that's a pretty good shot. It's a rifle.
And he's 10 feet away. But he's playing the motions. You see, he's LARPing. Yeah. He's watched it. He's seen it.
Yeah, he's monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah. When they're shooting, they're doing this stuff. Is he effective warfare?
Now, you see stuff like that. Yeah. And, I got the emotional aspect of it. Children. That's.
Yep.
But some of these murderers are children themselves in a way. What do you think is at the root of some of these things? As a part of being a part of your job in a way is kind of there's a little bit of profiling there. And I mean, I personally look into some of their how they grew up, some of the issues that they have. Mental health is apparently always very prevalent in a lot of these, and also some of the medication. What are some of your opinions on?
Again, these are complete opinions here. Yeah, we're departing.
This is just an opinion.
People poo-poo Colonel Grossman nowadays, Lieutenant Colonel Grossman. Sometimes, they have stuff to say about him or some of the stuff he talked about, but he's been saying a long time is video games. I'm not saying it's video games. I'm saying maybe that's one data point, because video games is one exposure. YouTube is another exposure. TV and movies is another exposure. 30 years ago, you could order a fully automatic Thompson submachine gun from a Sears and Roebuck magazine. Okay? Cost like $50. God, I wish I was back in those days. we had BARs, you could sell 7.62 BAR or 7mm BARs, whatever. What changed? What changed to where, we have much more restrictions on weapon system now, but these kids are wanting to put out there. So I think those are data points. And what we just say? What's that kid doing? Like the first shot he takes, he's like this. He's LARPing. He learned that from somebody. I'm like, what does that mean? Ban video games, ban TV for kids? I have no idea. But and also you can see a pattern too of this isn't, school shootings, like you said, is very emotional, but we've had mass shootings before.
Yeah.
Going postal. Before, 15, 20 years ago, you saw a lot of school or workplace shootings. Now you've seen that really drop, but the school has gone through. Yeah. So both components are what's going on. Yeah. I think medication, it seems like, again, my opinion, but it seems like every person they have is some type of medication. And it used to do with schizophrenia. I don't know if that's accurate, but it appears to be schizophrenia over and over again with the voices and whatnot, not all the time, But how do you address that? That's a thing, Ed, is I try not to go too far down the rabbit hole of the what.
Yeah.
Because it's like, man, I'm going to focus on the shooter trying to kill people.
Yeah.
He's a baby. He's not a baby. He went to, Bible study, whatever. He's a shooter. He's an attacker. And these are the things we're going to do to secure this facility that happens to be a school.
So speaking a little bit about the civilian side of training and preparation. We've mentioned the word baseline a lot. It's like it's a pretty used terminology in our field. But for some people that might not know what that is, can you explain what a baseline is and maybe how to construct one and how that kind of plays into some of the ways that people can prepare for bad situations?
Absolutely. Now we'll actually construct one of what I just did crossing the border today.
Sure.
I saw a whole scenario. There was nothing criminal about it, but it was an interesting scenario. So, the baseline is what should be the norm. People, place, a thing. Everyone has a baseline, and it's up to you to walk around in life and establish those baselines. Because if you don't have a baseline, you'll never spot the anomaly. The anomaly is the thing that's going to hurt you, that's going to blow you up or shoot you. So that's the one step there, is get your head out of your phone and start watching people's behavior. Oh, I don't know. I don't really know what people's behavior means. It doesn't matter. Start watching behavior. You will learn and learn and learn. Little games like maybe you used to play, like, if you want to sit down with a friend and if you have a T intersection, hey, is this person going to turn left or turn right? That's a simple game like that. And you can see how often you can get it right, because 60 to 70% of communication is nonverbal. Most people, just that. If you can understand that and believe that, notice the nonverbal, how much are you paying attention to at a given point? Do you even know your own baseline behavior? Do you even know what you're giving off to the world? Most people don't, So become a student of human behavior. For example, let me show you how to build a baseline. So I'm crossing the border from San Diego to TJ today to come to this. Obviously, it was obviously a border, but it was also a hard environmental line. Once you were actually on the TJ side of the border, the air is different. The smell is different. There's different grit in the air. Even 50 feet across the border, it's different. There's something about it. Yeah, it changes. So one thing I do is called the OCE method. Overt, covert, and anything else. Or what else? So when I come out the gate, I'm there at TJ, I'm at the corner, and I go, all right, is anybody overtly afraid right now? Is there any overt violence happening? Is anybody overtly carrying weapon systems? Scan, scan, scan. You can do that scanning pretty quick, you know. None of that. Now we go into the covert. All right. Is there stealth violence happening? Is there, someone concealing a weapon system? Do I look around and see someone continually patting one side of their thing? I don't know if it's a phone or a gun or a bomb, but if someone's continually touching and patting, that's something you want to pay attention to. So I did that quick scan, and anything else is the last one. Is like, all right, is there any other, amplifying information that I need to know about? Am I standing in a weird area? So I did that quick check, OCE, and now that there was no danger, now we start gathering information. Now that I make sure I'm safe in my area, now I'm start gathering information. What's the speed of movement? What are people doing? What are activities? I wanted to blend into the environment. So I looked around, saw a soft drink. I don't know what it was. And I'm like, went to the store and found just like that and walked around with that in my hand because I saw that. Do I know that's part of the baseline yet? No, not necessarily, but good enough for me to blend in. And then I was in a taxi area. I'm waiting for an Uber, and I'm actually kind of worried My Uber's coming right to the taxi area. And if y'all don't know out there, you know, in podcast land, sometimes these foreign cabbies, there's wars.
There's full-on
violence, you know. I remember going to Rome, and there were signs in Rome that says you will pay a $10,000 fine if you run an Uber in the city of Rome, and they probably bury you. So I'm waiting for a conflict, like the taxi guy, and I'm like, who's going to give me the problem? And one of the things we do is called the made man, looking for who is in charge. So it means mimicry, adoration, direction, entourage. So I'm looking around, and all the cabbies are kind of half in, half out of their cabs. They got their phones out, they're in their cabs, whatever it is. But there's one guy standing. There's one guy standing, and I see him point. And as soon as he points, one cab comes out of a thing and goes into a really innocuous little thing. But I start watching that right there, and I go, all right, this is the guy who's in charge. If I'm going to have a problem with anybody in this group, this is the person who's in charge. Uber comes, nothing happens. But if you want to scan that person a little bit more, you can not only watch what they're doing, direction, he was giving them form of direction, but also when someone's in charge, the other people around them will subtly start to mimic them. So if we're standing around and we're all standing like this, I don't know who's mimicking who. But if, like, let's say that top person, the taxi cab guy, you know, does some variation like this, slowly you'll start to see a mimicry happening. So that's another indicator. Direction I talked about. Entourage, having more than one person. One person, you know, somebody providing extra. So just the ability to scan a crowd and go, hey, that person right there seems to be in charge. That's a valuable thing. That applies in combat. When I see one of these behaviors in a bazaar somewhere, and I go, hey, stop the truck. And I wade through all these hundreds of people, and I walk up to you. I'm like, what's up, bro? How's your day going? And you really are a bad guy? I don't know that. But I keyed off a behavior. What's going on in your head? Yeah. You're all fucked up. Yeah. Who's ratting on me? So that's a combat situation. What about a board meeting? You know, a lot of these times someone will be formally in charge, the boss, the CEO, but you can watch certain behaviors and go, this person in charge, every time they laugh or make a comment, they'll defer. They'll look at this person over here. And what I really want to do today, and they'll look at them. That's a person they're looking to for direction. You know, you see little gangbangers do this, you know, when they're talking to cops. Oh yeah, nothing, officer. No, they're looking at the old timer across the street. So just that right there, your ability to pick up one overt threats or covert threats and scan who's in charge of that physical area, that's a huge amount of information. Way more than normal people have.
I remember sitting in and listening to one of your classes, and you talked about awareness, specifically hyper-awareness in an environment. And it's something that took me years to figure out for myself. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing you just give this golden apple of information to these people that might have not been through some of the things that I went through. Mm-hmm. But basically, you described, in most environments, the hyper-aware are usually there to look out for you. Yep. Or to get one over you, basically. It's one or the other. And where are you in that equation?
Yes, that's a huge factor there. So there's the outward studying of behavior, what the world is telling me. But again, going back to what are you telling the world? Because one, you could be causing anomalies. You could be causing disturbances. You know, I've talked to, I don't know how many cops I've trained, and I make this joke. And, you know, code 4 is, you know, I'm clear. I don't need help. I'm good to go. Let's say you're a cop and you're talking to an individual, everything's good to go, but you have that one guy in the department show up and you're trying to wave him off, going, no, court 4, and he shows up, and just because of his demeanor, he pisses off the person. All of a sudden you're maced and you're fight, you know. So understanding what's going on in you and your brain. People who have been, you know, I was 18 years old, you know, 19 years old when I started deployment. So that's a young brain that gets conditioned towards violence and survival, you know. I love the Marine Corps because they'll teach you how to be a professional homeless person, you know. So when you have a young brain like that, you end up in that conditioning a long time. That's your go-to, you know. It's like if all you have is a hammer. So, and then you have the other side of the spectrum of civilians being stuck in their phone and not having any awareness. Both of them are bad areas to be in. Both of them are bad. Obviously, the civilian with the head in the phone, they're not paying attention. But decision making, when you're hyper vigilant, when you're redlining all the time. And the other component is if you're redlining all the time, you're always looking for that threat all the time. Murphy's Law tells you you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. And right at that moment when you burn out, that's when Murphy is going to come out of your back pocket and he's going to rip your face off. So both of them are bad places to be. Completely unaware or too unaware where you're affecting your decision making. So the sweet area is having gone to this side of the house and going, all right, calm it down. Not everything is such a threat. So both bad places to be, but both easily trainable. All you need a little bit of knowledge about this stuff. It's going to take you a far way.
You see something that is out of place. And you confirm something to yourself. You see something that you think is out of place, but it's just because you haven't adapted your sense of normal to the environment you're in. Because normal is a fluid concept.
Yes, it is.
So if you, I don't know. For me, it's I understand the whole being burned out aspect of it. For me, it's issues of post-traumatic stuff. That where I'm like, wait, doesn't seem right, and I spend a lot of energy and time on looking at something or looking around, and all of a sudden it turns out to be nothing. And there's an exhaustion element to that. If you're constantly doing that, that's a pretty bad place to be. It's a bad place to live. So speaking about balancing some of this process out for people. So one, you don't want them to be completely paranoid and looking around all over the place. Two, you don't want them to be stuck in their phone, scrolling through TikTok. What's that middle ground look like for people? Like, does it mean that, look around every now and then? Does it mean educate yourself to what to look out for? Like, what's that middle ground kind of look like for people?
So you have to have the base education. You have to have the base knowledge of understanding nonverbal behavior and biometrics and kinesics and in the pre-behavior, like we talked about with the active shooter. So understand that there's a knowledge base out there. That knowledge base you can come to me to get. That's fine. But what you said, normal is fluid. Baselines are fluid. So my normal could be very different normal than someone else. So you establish a baseline of knowledge. You get the basic training. Then you apply it to your baseline. You have to come up with a new baseline because baseline for TJ is different than San Diego, 50 feet across. So it's the application of the mindset in the real world. There's so many people out here studying and doing things, but if you're not actively doing it or actively practicing it, when the time comes, we've all heard, you rise to the occasion. Scientifically, you defer to the highest level of your training. Yeah. If your highest level of your training is shit, that's what you're going to pull out of your pocket in the middle of a bad situation. So, and the component for the civilian sector is times are a-changing.
Yeah.
There's socioeconomic factors, there's political, there's refugee population. I've been saying the same thing for 15 years now, but now it's really accelerating. So people need to understand that there are active threats out there that you've never met, that you don't have a problem with, that you've never done anything to, that are actively trying to hurt you. Military, law enforcement, we all wake up every day with that thought, but that's sadly a thought that we have to think about nowadays.
It is interesting to me seeing, we just went through COVID, where everybody basically shut in. Before that, we went through some of the protests related to some of the police brutality stuff that happened in the United States, and the cancel the police thing, and Black Lives Matter, and Antifa.
I really thought that was going to work, man. The defund the police. I really thought that was going to help.
I mean, recruitment is down, standards are lowered, and the cops didn't show up to places. I was in Atlanta for some of the protests, and I was also in Portland for some of the protests, and I got to see.
I remember that. Yeah.
I was walking around there.
Yeah.
Like I like to learn, so like I
You were running a class, and they're like, "Hey, let's go outside."
Yeah, let's go outside, and I learned some of this firsthand.
Hey, look, a combat zone.
As an outsider, coming from a country like Mexico, like the one we're in right now, where rule of law and cops showing up doesn't mean necessarily that things are going to be solved. It was a very familiar place for me in the United States. Like I recognize the aspects of being in a place where, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters? Who are you going to call?
No one's coming for you. No one's coming.
They threw a Molotov cocktail at the police, and it landed on the foot of one of the protesters. And as soon as that happened, everybody screamed for the police on that protest line, which was pretty funny. They walked over, put him out, and then they walked back to their line
and started rioting.
Yeah, who wants to grow up to be a police officer now? That's probably going to be a rare thing later on. Departments all over California are just fucking hemorrhaging people.
Yep. San Diego is one. San Diego's had problems for years now with staffing, and that was before COVID.
Yeah, and a lot of this kind of brings me to the whole aspect of responsibility that we have as men, and if you're a parent or if you're just anybody that wants to be an asset to your people around you and not just a boat anchor, to prepare. And going out to a range and shooting high speed, pretty cool. Guns, all that, great. Knowing how to use a weapon, knowing how to fight, all that is great. But a lot of the stuff that has kept me safe and kept me alive for as long as that I have, and some of the, I mean, we're in these, back when I was working in the city, it was the most dangerous city on the planet. And I was working the most dangerous job on the planet, according to some of the life insurance policy guys. And I got to learn a lot. I got to see a lot. And I wish that I had gone to one of your classes before I went through all that stuff, because I had to learn things the hard way.
I was right there with you, man. I did 3 deployments. Then we got it. It's like, Jesus, where was this?
So when I talk about people getting ready and being responsible and figuring some of these things out now, COVID hit and everybody was trying to learn how to build a pantry. I grew up with I grew up with one, so I already had one. There's a line of people outside of the gun store, and hey, you have a gun? Can I borrow a gun? That type of thing. A lot of that hardcore high-speed stuff is great, but some of the software elements that you provide to people in your training is, I think it's, if there's any place to start for people, if anybody out there sees them going to a range and shooting an AR with a played carrier as something completely far away or hard to get to or like out of place for them, it's probably because they haven't had the download of the software download that they need to kind of see where some of those things fall into at the further part of the spectrum, but actually knowing what to look for, knowing what to prepare for, and seeing and gaining the ability to not only look but to see, as far as threats coming in and how they're changing constantly. Where do you think is this going? Like as far as trends go?
Oh, it's trending and it's evolving into something we've never seen before. Technology is a huge component of that.
Drones.
What we're seeing in Ukraine is early adoption phases of wickedly deadly elements. This is cavemen bumping 2 sticks together to make fire right now, and they're deadly effective. What's the Russian kill? 30,000 dead. I don't know if that's true or not, but okay, let's cut it by a third. Let's say 10,000. That's horrible. We're seeing the very beginnings of the employment of those things. They're going to evolve, and they're going to get quicker and faster and much harder. We've had this kind of online, like, hey, let's link arms and protect ourselves against the ocean. With the advent of some of the technology, you're not going to be able to do that. You'd mentioned that the police and our positions as men, specifically in the United States right now, with law enforcement, United States is kind of unique. It's kind of an experiment. We talk about defunding the cops, and the cops are brutal, and the cops are doing this. We, the people, that's us. The cops are us. We have given the police, a sworn officer, our powers, and we said, you know what, we're Americans, we don't want to deal with this every day, so we're going to empower you, another citizen, just like us, to deal with this stuff. So when you're sitting there, knocking the institutions and bashing that, yeah, there's brutality and there's problems, but that's what we gave them. So every person out there, whether you're sworn a cop or not, it's your duty to defend. Duty to defend the weak, whether it's here or not, in a foreign country, not a foreign country. It doesn't matter.
It was funny that some of these free zones that developed in places like Portland, Seattle, and stuff like that, like Chaz.
Yeah, Chaz, murders every night.
The first thing they did, they set up a police force.
You can't make that up.
I mean, they were carrying, like, they had their own police force with AKs. I'm the police here. The first thing they did was set up.
They should have never let that slide, though, because psychologically, what are you telling people? I think they know now. Yeah. That should have been taken out day one to show, like, we're a rule of law here, because some people start to question.
Yeah, the lines now.
Yeah, and they go, oh, they can do a Chaz. I'll do my own Chaz now.
Yeah. It's an interesting aspect of how things are normalized now. A lot of things that are normalized now that would, like beyond comprehension.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Some of the stuff you see, the kids in the schools and like all these situations are coming out now. It's like, I feel like I came out of a bunker.
So if people want to find out more about your training and more about you, like where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. So if you're an organization, if you're a school or a federal government, go to the website, emergencedisrupt.com. It's the best way to contact me, and we'll solve your training solutions. But if you just want this information for yourself, I started Patreon not too long ago. So I kind of followed in your footsteps, and it's a really good way to do that. So Yousef Badou, Patreon, I'm pretty sure I'm the only Yousef Badou on there. And we do a really fun show called the Left to Bang Show, basically, where I pick a topic and we talk about the pre-attack, pre-event indicators of it. We have some little useful 5-minute situational awareness guides like that OCE thing I told you, just little chunky things you can read. Hey, maybe you're in a combat zone, or maybe you're dropping your kids off in the school, whatever it is. So those are the best two ways to get at me.
Probably some of the most valuable few hours of just sitting and listening that I've had in a while when I got to see your presentation. And it's, again, some of those moments where I just like wish with all of my heart to have listened to some of that at the start of my career, and could have avoided a lot of stuff. So highly recommend anybody out there that just sees this as a daunting task to get ready,
Because it's coming.
This is a pretty good place to start. It's a software download, and it is something fundamental that will make other things make sense. So you're trying to jump into the deep end of the pool, that's probably going to be pretty daunting. But it's a pretty interesting. There you go. There's Ferraris here too. Don't worry.
Yeah, it sounded like it. Yeah.
So we're about to go get some bomb-ass tacos. The more dangerous the city, the better the tacos.
And I'm gonna see how quick it takes me to get over the border.
We'll figure it out. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Great conversation. Hope to have you back on again. If you want to get ready for whatever's coming, I think this is a good place to start. Software download. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you,
for
Ed.
coming.
Appreciate it.